There is a myth whispered in the creases of pillowcases and howled in barroom corners that a woman alone is either waiting or broken. But what if she is neither? What if she is whole, fierce, and free? What if her silence is not loneliness but thunder thinking? There is a quiet that comes when a woman closes her own door behind her. It is not the hush of absence. It is not the silence of being left behind. No, it is a music so low and steady that only the brave can hear it. The kind of song you must be still enough, wise enough, grown enough to notice. The world will tell you that being alone is being abandoned, that if no one is beside you, then you must be less. But that is a lie carved by fear and sold by tradition. Solitude is not a shadow, it is a mirror. And in that mirror, a woman sees not what she lacks, but what she has long forgotten she already is. When a woman lives alone, she is not shrinking. She is not curled up in the corner waiting to be unwrapped like a gift. No, she is stretching, expanding, taking up space in her own life, filling every inch of her home with her voice, her scent, her books stacked in sacred towers, her songs echoing through every room like prayers she wrote herself. She is not afraid of the echo. She is not afraid of the floors creaking when she walks. She is not afraid of the silence between the raindrops, because she knows that this space, this sweet, wild, unbroken space is hers. Do you know what it means to dance in your kitchen at midnight with no one watching? To read a novel out loud just to hear your own voice? To eat what you like, when you like, how you like, without apology? To move your furniture around until your soul fits the shape of the room? That is not loneliness. That is liberation. They say a woman is empty without a man, but what they do not see is how full she becomes when she is no longer pouring herself into someone who cannot hold her. She gathers her pieces, not to be mended by someone else, but to marvel at how golden they look when she holds them to the light. She becomes her own mosaic. They never taught us that a woman could be enough on her own. They taught us that we were decorations, ornaments waiting to be chosen, voices waiting to be softened. But oh, when a woman lives alone and loves herself in that stillness, she becomes thunder wrapped in lace. She becomes sky in human form. She becomes vast. She begins to think thoughts she never had time to finish before. Begins to speak truth she used to only whisper in the dark. She paints, writes, bakes, creates, not for applause, not for approval, for the sheer joy of breathing life into something that never existed before she touched it. She no longer fills her hours with distractions. She no longer bends herself for companionship. She sits with her own sorrow and says, I will not run from you. She laughs at her own jokes. She mourns her past with dignity and meets her future with her hands wide open. She is not waiting, she is blooming, and the blooming is not sudden. It is not a burst, it is slow and sacred. It is in the way she arranges her pillows, in the way she writes her name like it is a hymn, in the way she locks her door at night and sighs with safety, knowing no one will call her name in anger, no one will enter her space with chaos. This is not a woman forgotten. This is a woman remembered by herself. She pours her own wine and lights her own candles. She soaks in tubs filled with rose petals and jazz. She is not spoiling herself. She is honoring herself. She knows her worth is not determined by who texts her back, who lays beside her, or who sees her as relationship material. She is relationship with herself, with her God, with her peace. And baby, peace is not quiet. It is a roar so deep it hums beneath your ribs. She is not lonely, she is alone. There is a difference, a sacred difference. Loneliness is hunger. Aloneness is a feast. She feasts on her time, her energy, her creativity. She feeds the part of her that starved while she was busy proving she was lovable. Now she does not prove, she simply is. And that is power. Because when a woman has lived in solitude, true, raw, rich solitude, she is no longer afraid of empty chairs. She knows how to fill her own room. She knows how to carry her joy without a witness. She becomes a cathedral that no crowd can build. Let them call her lonely. Let them whisper. But when she walks into a room, they will feel it. That stillness, that grace, that certainty, that soft fire that comes from a woman who has met herself in the quiet and decided she was never lacking, only unfolding. She does not wait for the world to hand her a crown. She does not knock on doors hoping someone will let her in. She does not sit in shadows praying to be seen. No, she builds, she rises. From the floor of her own life, she lays each brick, mixes her own mortar with sweat and prayer, and builds an empire that begins not with land or gold, but with self. There is something divine about a woman who understands that her power is not bestowed, it is born. Born in the still, small places inside her that others overlook. Born in the lessons she learned while tending to wounds no one else saw. Born in the early mornings she woke alone, tired and unthanked, and still got up, still cooked her dreams for breakfast, still walked out into a world that had not made room for her and carved space with her bare hands. The empire she builds is not a castle with spires. It is not marble halls or thrones trimmed in velvet. No, it is more sacred than that. It is the way she answers the phone with strength in her voice, the way she writes her name at the bottom of things she used to be too afraid to claim. It's the way she pays her bills with her own earned coin, how she opens her front door with a key no one else holds, how she owns her choices and her peace without needing validation from anyone's eyes but her own. She builds her empire in whispers at first, small affirmations in the mirror, quiet reminders that she is enough. She starts with what she has. A rented room, an old notebook, a worn-out heart, and a spine made of memory. She doesn't wait for perfect conditions because she knows they don't exist. She knows that beginnings are often made in broken places. So she starts where she is, with trembling hands but a steady soul, and she builds. People often mistake her independence for defiance. They say she's too proud, too picky, too distant. But what they don't understand is that she has learned to value her energy like currency. She spends it wisely now, not on people who deplete her, not on lovers who love her halfway, not on anyone who cannot see her beyond her body or her usefulness. She has learned that the greatest wealth she can build is not in a man's attention, but in her own reflection. So she invests, not in fleeting romance, but in the solid foundation of her self-worth, in books that sharpen her mind, in sleep that restores her power, in friends who lift instead of drain, in routines that keep her soul watered, in creativity that reminds her she is a creator too, not just a caretaker of others' dreams. Her empire is not made of show, it is made of substance. It grows in private long before anyone notices. It is in the decisions she makes when no one's watching, the discipline to say no to what doesn't align, the courage to start over when everything falls apart, the grace she gives herself on days when she is tired, the fire she stokes on nights when she feels forgotten. She builds from the inside out because she knows the outside can lie. Looks fade, praise changes, trends shift, but what she roots in her spirit, that stays, that endures, that can weather the storms and the silence. And so she fortifies the inside. Her boundaries become bricks, her values, beams, her self-trust, a roof under which she can rest, create, grow, and reign. And when love comes, if it comes, it will not be her rescue. It will not be her completion. It will be a guest in the house she has already built, a visitor, not a foundation, because she is already rooted, already whole, already home. She is not waiting to be discovered. She has discovered herself, not waiting to be loved. She has learned to adore the sound of her own laughter, the shape of her ambition, the rhythm of her freedom. She no longer performs. She no longer explains. She no longer auditions for a part in someone else's dream. She is the writer, the director, the star, and the empire is her name written in full on her terms. She is not afraid to be powerful, not ashamed to be alone. She carries herself with the poise of someone who has survived both obscurity and heartbreak and built altars out of each. She walks with the dignity of someone who knows that strength built slowly lasts longer, that confidence earned privately roars louder than anything shouted from a stage. What they see now, the confidence, the calm, the shine, it didn't come from someone handing her a life. It came from her forging it, alone, unapplauded, unrescued. It came from the nights she cried and still got up, from the mornings she doubted and still chose herself, from the years she poured into growth when no one was watching. Her empire is not made of noise. It is made of roots, and it stands, and it rises, and it is hers. There comes a time in a woman's life when she no longer wants to wage war with herself. She grows tired of the battlefield within, the clash of who she was told to be and who she truly is, the endless skirmish between wanting to be accepted and daring to be free. She gets weary of the bruises she gives herself, the late night doubts, the morning guilt, the way she questions her voice even when it's the only one speaking truth. One day, she puts down the sword, she uncrosses her arms, she looks at herself, really looks, and says, enough. She sits down at the table, just her and her spirit. She lays out every version of herself, the girl who was too loud, the woman who became too quiet, the dreamer they laughed at, the lover who loved too much, the worker who broke her back for people who forgot her name, the soft parts of her she hid, the sharp edges she sharpened to survive. She welcomes them all. No more hiding, no more pretending that one is more worthy than the other. They have all walked her here, and so she writes, not with ink but with intention, not on paper but on the walls of her own soul, a peace treaty, not to be perfect but to be whole, not to always win but to finally rest. She writes terms that speak to her softness and her fire. She says, I will no longer apologize for needing space. I will no longer hate the mirror on days when I feel invisible. I will not quiet my laughter because it makes someone else uncomfortable. I will not sacrifice my joy for belonging. I will not shrink. I will not shout just to be heard. I will speak calmly, clearly, and trust that the right ears will listen. She forgives herself, not because she has to, but because she chooses to. She forgives the nights she stayed when she knew better, the chances she gave that came back broken, the way she clung to people who couldn't hold her, the silence she kept when she should have screamed, the pain she buried in her belly, the times she betrayed herself just to keep someone else comfortable. She forgives not to forget, but to set herself free. Because every wound she once tried to ignore now blooms into wisdom she can use. She turns her scars into scripture. This treaty is not signed in one day. It is a process, a devotion. Some mornings she will wake up and forget. The old voices will rise. You're not enough. You're too much. Why are you alone? What did you do wrong? And on those days, she will return to the table. She will read her words again. She will remind herself, I am no longer at war. I am in a homecoming. She will learn to live without tension in her chest. She will give herself permission to be slow, to be silent, to be still. She will walk through her own mind like a garden, not a prison. She will plant gentleness where there used to be self-judgment. She will sit in her solitude and sip peace like warm tea. She will make decisions that honor her, even if no one else understands. She will build boundaries that are not walls but gates. She decides who enters and how. She no longer opens her door for chaos just to feel wanted. She does not need saving. She is her own sanctuary, and she no longer confuses drama for passion, pain for love, busyness for purpose. She breathes differently now, slower, deeper. She knows what it feels like to be centered, and she protects it with quiet fury. In this new way of living, she does not aim to impress. She does not chase approval. She wears what feels like freedom. She says what feels like truth. She keeps company with those who do not require her to bleed for closeness. She smiles not because she must, but because she is light on the inside. And when she cries, it is no longer from battle fatigue, but from the release that comes when you finally come home to yourself. This peace treaty is her revolution. It is not loud, but it is powerful. It does not require an audience. It is private, sacred, personal. She doesn't boast about it, but anyone who meets her now feels it, in the way she carries herself, in the way she listens to her own needs, in the way she no longer flinches when alone. She is not lonely. She is in union with herself, a communion with her truth. And the most beautiful part, she never asks anyone to sign it with her. She does not need their consent to be free. She simply lives it, and that is enough. There is a moment when a woman stops needing to be told she is beautiful to believe it. She no longer waits for compliments to echo through her ears before she stands tall. The validation that once made her glow now feels small, almost too light to hold the weight of who she has become. She has tasted freedom, real freedom, and now flattery cannot feed her. She has learned that some words come dressed in honey but carry no substance, that being called gorgeous means little if it's spoken by someone who does not respect her soul. She has been told she's pretty while being overlooked, admired while being dismissed, desired while being diminished, and so she no longer leans toward sweet words like they are sunlight. She knows she is the sun. There was a time when praise made her pulse quicken, when someone liking her picture, her laugh, her body meant something deep. But now she watches the way people speak, not just the words, but the energy behind them. She listens for truth, not sugar. She would rather sit in silence than be sweet-talked into forgetting herself again. Her freedom is not in being adored, it is in being aligned. She wants her peace more than she wants their approval. She does not trade her boundaries for attention. She does not lower her standards for a few moments of warmth. Her time, her energy, her softness, they are sacred, and flattery does not buy access to sacred things. She is not impressed by quick charm, not thrilled by empty promises. She has grown wise. She has seen how easy it is to be complimented and still not be cared for, how easy it is to be praised but never truly known. She does not collect admirers. She collects truth. She is not waiting to be chosen. She has already chosen herself. Now, when someone says, "You're amazing," she smiles, but she doesn't melt, because she already knows. She has sat with herself long enough, held her own hand through enough dark nights that no one needs to affirm what she has already affirmed in private. She does not crave being told she is enough. She is enough whether or not they see it. This is not arrogance. This is healing. This is not pride. This is presence. She is not cold. She is clear. There is a difference. She moves through the world differently now, with less apology and more intention. She dresses for herself. She speaks with a voice she reclaimed. She loves with both tenderness and caution, not because she is guarded, but because she is grounded. She gives without shrinking, receives without guilt, leaves when she is no longer valued. She used to think love looked like attention. Now she knows love looks like respect, like consistency, like honesty, like someone seeing her and staying, like someone not needing her to perform in order to be worthy. She is no longer moved by who likes her. She is moved by who honors her. Because freedom means she can say no without explaining. She can walk away without drama. She can be by herself without feeling empty. Freedom means she is not afraid of being misunderstood. She no longer rushes to correct the stories people create about her. She does not beg to be seen clearly. The people meant to see her will take their time. The rest are not her concern. Flattery is fleeting, but her freedom is firm. It is in her laughter that no longer asks permission, in her eyes that do not dart around for approval, in her spine, which is straighter now, in the quiet joy she feels when she keeps a promise to herself. She is not chasing romance. She is cultivating reverence. She is not seduced by surface-level affection. She is attracted to depth, to truth, to energy that holds space without needing to be loud. There are still days when the old hunger stirs, the part of her that once survived on being wanted, but she does not feed it with crumbs anymore. She knows that real love will not require her to starve first. Real love will find her standing in her full self, not bent over looking for scraps. And if it never comes, she will still be full, because her joy does not depend on being desired. Her joy was built in silence, grown in solitude, strengthened in the furnace of becoming. So when they tell her she's beautiful, she says thank you. But she does not build her worth on their words. She's already built her freedom, and it's stronger than any praise they could ever offer. There is a quiet shift that happens in a woman when she stops treating love as her destination. When she folds up the blueprint she's been taught to follow, marry by this age, move in, merge lives, become complete, and realizes that she is not an unfinished project. She is not a half waiting on a whole. She is not a blank page waiting to be written by someone else's pen. She is a full story, complex and complete, whether or not love enters the next chapter. She has learned, through trial, through tears, through truth, that love is not the foundation she builds upon. Love is the painting on the walls she has already built. It is the wildflower she places in the window of a home she designed herself. It is beautiful, yes. It is sweet, yes. But it is not everything. It is not required for her life to be rich. It is not the main plot. It is a bonus, a gift, a golden thread, not the entire tapestry. She has watched too many women wait for love like it's a bus running late, like their real life begins the moment someone chooses them. She has felt that ache herself, the pause, the limbo, the sense that without someone to love, she is standing still, but no more. She has stepped out of that waiting room. She walks her path now without needing to be held. She is the movement. She is the spark. She is not waiting for permission to bloom. She has stopped designing her life around a future that depends on someone else's presence. Her plans no longer rely on a partner's shadow. She buys the home. She travels. She learns the language. She opens the business. She writes the book. She creates a life that is rich in her own voice, steeped in her own joy, rooted in her own rhythm. Love may come, and if it does, let it be a dance, not a rescue. She is not bitter. She still believes in love. Deep, transformative, soft, and soulful love, but she no longer believes in sacrificing her wholeness to get it. She no longer calls settling a strategy. She no longer shrinks to fit into someone else's ideal. If love does not make her more of herself, it is not love, it is performance. She has given enough of herself to applause that never came. Now she holds love lightly, gently. She opens her hand but not her soul to chaos. She welcomes love that walks beside her, not love that drags, demands, or dims. She does not fear being alone. She fears losing herself again in the name of being chosen. That was the old way, the old ache, the old lie. This new way is quiet. It is peaceful. It is powerful. She has joy on her own. She has pleasure on her own. She dances barefoot in her kitchen without waiting for someone to notice. She makes dinner for one with the same care and elegance once reserved for romantic nights. She wakes up not to the sound of another's breath, but to the certainty that she belongs to herself. She no longer tells herself that love will fix her life. She is not broken. She is not unfinished. She is not late. Her worth is not waiting at the altar. Her dreams do not require vows. She is living now, breathing now, creating now. And if someone arrives, let them arrive whole. Let them arrive honest. Let them arrive soft but strong. Let them walk in as an equal, not a savior. Because she is no longer saving spaces for people who do not see her. She is no longer building futures on possibilities that do not honor her present. She has come to understand something sacred. Love is a gift, not a guarantee. And not having it does not mean her life is lacking. Her life is art. It is soul. It is layered and lovely and sacred. She is surrounded by love in 1,000 forms. Her friendships, her peace, her laughter, her freedom, her growth. And if romantic love never comes, she will still rise, she will still dance, she will still be enough, because love is not the blueprint, she is. So to every woman sipping coffee at her window alone, I see you. To every woman who walks herself home, who opens her own jars, who sleeps starfish wide in the middle of her bed, I honor you. You are not waiting, you are arriving, and may the world learn at long last that a woman without boyfriends is not without, she is within. And that, my sisters, is power.